Hello there folks, I'm Dan Brown from asortofinterestinglife.com. I hope you can hear me over the sound of this running water, so I'm about to tell you the hilarious story of how I broke down in this loch the other day. I just wanted to throw in this clip that some of you might recognise from one of my previous videos. Don't worry, this is only going to be a quick 20 seconds of it, just to demonstrate and illustrate how perfect the boat trip was on that night and the absolute brilliant environment and sunset scenery that I was entering that loch in on that particular night. And of course, I didn't quite expect the following to occur. So after a perfect 3 hours of nice relaxing calm and pretty much stereotypical scenic boating, I was sinking down with the water level in the loch, and if I show you what we've got on the other side of these gates, you can see that there's a decent drop of a good few feet here. So Tilly was nice and sat down in there in basically a very small narrowboat shaped open topped tunnel, and almost a narrowboat box in many ways. As the water level sank down, I sank down, everything was perfect. Some holiday boaters came up and opened the gates for me, and it was time to start moving forwards and coming out for the absolute last stint of the day, to literally move just a few hundred feet down that way and more up somewhere in that direction. Of course, I started to put the throttle down a little bit to gently move forwards, and absolutely nothing happened. I started to put the throttle down a little bit further, the engine started to rev, but very little happened, and then suddenly the engine just cut out, and I started to think, hang on, did I accidentally switch it off then or something? And just quickly started the engine up and everything was completely normal again. I then went to move the tiller and discovered that it was absolutely jammed in place. That wasn't a good sign, so I started to just put a little bit more throttle on to hopefully free everything up, because it was clear there must have been something stuck around the propeller itself. Then I had a very slight bit of forward momentum, but the loch started to just completely fill with a rising smoke, and that was not a good sign. And then again, the engine cut out. So I had to look my way upwards out of the loch to the figures gathered around and say, well, I'm terribly sorry about this, but I appear to have broken down, so it may just take me a moment to drag her out of the loch. So I then had to walk her with a rope just down and out of the loch here, which was all fine and easy peasy, especially because there was no rush and everybody was very understanding about it. But when I got to this part here, you can see how the locks and the walls leak all over the place. But this here, the water leak, is coming from actually above the ground level, which as soon as I then put my foot here, unsuspecting, because obviously my attention was focused an awful lot more on the boat itself, I almost tumbled straight down into the canal between the wall and the boat, which definitely wouldn't have made for the best of boating experiences. So I managed to drag her just up this way and more up just there. At the very end of these mooring pins there were two boats, one towing another, that were moored up there for a day or two. So obviously I had no forward propulsion, I had no method of steering the boat. I had to just moor up on these pins behind the very first boat that I found down here. And then, well, that's where the fun really began. Well, basically, I knew that there had to be some sort of clogging around the propeller itself, and I lifted up the deck boards and had a look in, and there was nothing wrapped around the propeller shaft on the inside of the boat, so it was like, yeah, it's definitely something on the external side. So that was pretty obvious though, really, just from the fact that the tiller was jammed and wouldn't move properly. So then, to get into the weed hatch, which is basically, well, it's quite literally just a hole that opens up inside the boat above the propeller. But obviously, having a hole in the boat isn't what you want. So on top of that, on most weed hatches, there will be a really tightly clamped down lid. On Tilly, it's a sheet of wood with a sheet of metal over the top, and then a big clamp over the top of that, with two twisting sort of, I don't know, clamps, whatever the technical term is, please don't ask me. But basically two hand-turned screws that then really tighten it down and absolutely clamp it rock solid. And obviously the wood is slightly malleable, so that keeps it as a really solid, tight, well, basically a really watertight seal, hopefully, to stop, obviously, when you start moving forwards or backwards and the propeller starts spinning and disturbing the water. Obviously, you need something extremely tight and as watertight as possible to stop the disturbed water all splashing up and coming into the boat and leading to terrible, terrible circumstances. Well, it's been a wrestle to get the weed hatch off, but I've managed to do it. Unfortunately, we don't have any light at all to actually see what's going on down there. But there's definitely, like, I don't know if you can see, it almost looks like a big clump of mud or something. Flipping heck. Somewhere the propeller should just be down there. Well, my friends, I can't believe this, but it looks like it is literally completely and utterly tangled up in a load of this. Well, I'm not sure what sort of plant or root or whatever, and if it is, but it's so jammed on. And there is a lot of it. Oh, good grief. Yeah, this is not the sort of pruning and gardening that I envisioned. Once again, what a time of night to start doing this as the sun is quickly vanishing. But again, this is one of those unexpected points. I'm hoping that it hasn't caused any major overheating or anything like that. This is so jammed on here. I think I must have picked it up in one of the locks where it would have all just been collected. God, it's just so tough. And there's literally just clumps and clumps of the stuff. Ironically, this is also the best light that I've got to do the job, so might as well keep the camera rolling as I do it. Oh, I hope that this is the problem. Well, time's getting on and I've already apologised in advance to the neighbours. You can see we've got a little bit of debris up here. I'm trying to get the hatch back on and tightened up, so I think that I've got everything sorted. I'll show you in the morning the pile of stuff that I've got out from there, but let's just again have a look up, see how beautiful a place is this. Sound of the water rushing through the lock just at the back there. And it's going to be an absolutely perfect clear night by the looks of it. I've already got Venus and Jupiter, which I don't know if you can see right up there. 2 planets, plenty of stars already coming out. And hopefully this is going to be a nice calm evening once I've got this flipping hatch back on. Oh, and of course the board decks and everything down as well. Right. Oh, good grief. The ironic thing is I only wanted to moor up literally 100 foot from here. So hopefully in the morning I'll be able to just quickly nip around this boat, get off these moorings here which are specifically for the lock. But goodness me. Well, an exciting end to the day. As you can imagine, I'm extremely happy to say that when I started the engine up the next morning and had a little trip of 100 yards just down out of the way of the locks and to a far more convenient place for everybody, everything ran fine, and I was very happy to see that the engine didn't suddenly die while I was out in the middle of the canal. So that was all good, and in the miles I've been doing since then, everything seems to be running okay, so hopefully there's no lasting damage done, although she will be out of the water very soon, so we can have a proper good look and nose around underneath here. And ultimately I just really wanted to share this story with you, just a little bit of insight maybe to these completely random moments of boat life that happen, and how, as I've said, it was the absolute perfect boat trip with all the sun and the sunset and hardly any boats about and just travelling at the slowest pace ever, all beautiful. And then completely random in the last lock of the last stretch, it's like, oh yeah, you've broken down and your trip is now completely over. But as I've said before, it's all about that. Well, I've got to just deal with it, moor up, and I'm already home. So on that note, I will say thank you very much for watching. As always, feel free to check out my other videos. There's well over 200 boaty videos online now, as well as all sorts of general countryside and more scenery heavy and getting out amidst the countryside and on the kayak, on my bike and all that sort of stuff. Feel free to check out the Facebook page or even add me personally on Facebook and Twitter if you want to see loads of boaty pictures and scenery and updates from life afloat. And as usual, I'll throw in the random plugs for the end here. Please do consider checking out my first ever audiobook. If you haven't got an Audible account, then have a look in the links in the description, because you could well be able to get it for free. Feel free to check out my Kindle books. Again, links all in the description. They're nice and short, all boaty sorts of stuff. And for anybody who's super super interested and would like to support me, please do consider checking out my Patreon, and you'll have access to my exclusive monthly blog post over there, and goodness knows what. Just generally have a look if you want, but as I've said before, there's no pressure and I don't blame you if you don't. Until the next time, thank you very much for watching. Keep it boat worthy, have a fantastic day, and of course, farewell.